Yeah, find a good spouse. Seriously, game changing. Having someone that you can lean on and who supports you and has your back and believes in you, game changing. The thought of doing this by myself without having someone to lean on.
Welcome to Elevate Utah,
Utah's #1 growth podcast.
I'm Court Brady.
I am Carlos Souza, and today we have Ryan Smith. We're excited to have you here, Ryan. Thanks for taking
Yeah, glad to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Quick intro on Ryan. Graduated from BYU, bottom of the class in business strategy. And then right after BYU, went on to start Recyclops, which is a convenient and affordable recycling and other sustainability initiatives to underserved markets. Ryan is also a Forbes 30 under 30, which I'm really excited to hear more about that. These are just 3 things out of his profile. He's done a lot more, but we're really excited to dive into these 3 today.
How do you get on Forbes 30 under 30?
Yes.
I'm so curious about this.
Yeah. So like everything in life,
Can't wait for what's next.
you can hack your way into just about anything. And I think most people who are Forbes 30 under 30, I mean, you can't have done nothing, right? Like you can't have done nothing.
That's the first prerequisite.
and pull it off. But it's like, you think about applying to college. You know, if you apply to college and you can have amazing grades, you can have all this, but if you write a really sucky essay, you might not get in. And one of the big things that Forbes 30 under 30 has is references. And they take the references seriously. And the biggest trick with Forbes, maybe, I don't know if anyone Forbes would actually see this, but if you do, sorry. But the biggest trick is you have another person who's won before recommend you. I've recommended multiple people. I've never recommended someone who didn't get it.
Everyone you've recommended has gotten it.
Yeah, and I've done 2 or 3.
If only I would have known you 4 years ago.
I know. So it's the trick is like I'm not recommending people who haven't done anything. Right.
But that's it.
So he wouldn't have recommended you, Court.
Yes, I would. That's fair.
But yeah, no, it was something that I'd kind of thought about and thought, I kind of want to, I think that'd be really cool. And finally, when I was 29, I looked at my business and I looked at myself and I thought, I think I actually maybe could get it. And so I reached out to someone who had, gotten it and said, hey, how did you do this? And they, gave me some tips. And then I reached out to to a friend of mine who I knew actually a little bit better, but was also got Forbes 30 under 30 and said, hey, can you recommend me? And they said, yeah. So I wrote myself a nice recommendation. They edited accordingly to their opinion, and we did it. So
love it. You started Recyclops 11 or 12 years ago. You're only 34. That's really early to nail it. Like most people switch jobs 5 times by the time they're 34.
Yeah. I don't know if I've nailed it, but I've nailed it enough that I still have a job, right? So no, it's been a definite slog going through it. I feel like there's, anyone who's really been through entrepreneurship knows that there's, high highs, low lows. And, sometimes you can't climb out of the low lows, but luckily we've been able to climb out of those every time and make it to the other side and survive as a business. And, but another part of it is just, I love what I do. I really love my business. I love the impact that we have in the world. I love, just being an entrepreneur. The thought of doing anything else is like mind numbing, like soul crushing.
You own a B Corp, and I had to look that up. I'd heard the phrase before, but for the audience, what's a B Corp?
Yeah, so there's actually 2 things. You have a certified B Corp, which is it's a certification third party that certifies you, and it really is focused on doing good. And so part of it is what you're doing, like outcomes of the business, and what are you doing that's good there. But so much of it is how you treat your people and things that you're doing internally and internal processes. And so you have to do a lot of things to track. You have to, and it's very data set, intensive, and you have to track a lot of things there. But I was really proud because there's a lot of businesses that have to change a lot in order to qualify and be a lot more transparent, do a bunch of things in order to qualify. You do it, it's a point system. You need a certain number of points. You can get them in a bunch of categories. And so two businesses could both be B Corps and look very different from each other because one focused on one area, one focused on another. But we, without changing anything in our business, had enough points, barely, but had enough points to, qualify to be a B Corp. Took about a year to go through the process and get certified as a B Corp, but really proud. And, I think there's a bunch of incredible companies that are also B Corps and proud to do that. On the other side, there's a entity type called a benefit corporation. It can be a little bit confusing, which is why I bring it up. So a benefit corporation is a legal entity type, like an LLC, a C Corp, an S Corp, and a benefit corporation or public benefit corporation is an entity that has in its charter and in its documentation that it is has a social purpose. That's as a social benefit or a public benefit corporation. It's for the public benefit. And, part of that is that for me, if at Recyclops, if my board one day came to me and said, hey, you're paying more to recycle than it would be to landfill, we had a down quarter. We really need to for this next quarter, we need to just landfill stuff. I could always say, but I can really say with legal backing that no, we can't do that because we're a benefit corporation and that goes against who we are and the public benefit that we provide. So it provides a business that is, really intentional about doing good, some protections to ensure that they can't kind of have their hand forced to slip up on that. And so we're both a public benefit corporation as our legal entity type. We're taxed as a C Corp. So you can kind of classify how you want how you want to be taxed when you're a PBC. And then we went through the certification to be a certified B Corp.
So I was going to ask you that. What's the benefit of being a certified B Corp? Why did you do it?
Yeah. Couple things. One is it is it's an outward expression of kind of an inward commitment to people see, our customers see it, brands we partner with, they see that and they say, oh,
I see.
This company's legit. They're serious in what they're doing. And they know that the process to become a B Corp is really rigorous. And they know that, it's a signal. And so that's a big piece for us is just that signal and showing the world. And it also keeps you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you get audit every few years. You have to go through the process again, and it's like if you fall short, you don't get recertified. And so I love that about it. And then just the network. I got an email today from someone who said, "Hey, we're a fellow benefit corp. We want to partner." And it's like we're a fellow B Corp. Let's partner. And it's like let's do it. So it's like love that.
That's cool.
You share that space with companies like Ben & Jerry's. I looked up a couple other companies that were in that space, and I thought it was only social impact. They have an impact on my waistline, but it sounds like there's other things they can do to be a benefit corp.
Totally. It's all about what you do as an organization. And so much of it is internal, how you treat your own people. So much of it is about how you treat your own people. And then obviously doing other things. And it's not just how you treat your own people, it's how you treat the world around you. So it's we do recycling, but it's you have trash in your business. Everyone has trash. You have an office, people consume things, right? And it's how are you managing that? That's part of B Corp. And so for us, it was kind of funny because you can get points for oh, your business has a recycling program. Your business, we didn't qualify for any of those points because we're fully remote. And so it's oh no, I can't say oh, our office has recycling. It's no, I don't get any points for that because we're fully remote. And so
do you feel like there's a correlation between businesses that treat their people well and do the right things anyways and long-term success of the company, or do you feel like that they're not necessarily
I mean,
one-to-one?
I definitely feel, I think Pew Research has done some studies that have indicated that, but I'll tell you, where I've seen it at Recyclops, and so much of it is, you retain good people. People stick around when you're doing good in the world and when you're, treating them well. Like we had we did a round of, actually 2 rounds of layoffs at one point, which is awful, horrible experience. Learned a ton of things from it and wish we never had to do it, but we're unable to raise as much money as we thought we could and had hired according to projections. And then suddenly it's like, oh, shoot, what do you do? And I fully expected that with that like jarring experience for our company. And we actually went so far as we lowered everyone's salaries by 10%. Executives took way bigger, like cut their salaries by 50%, like just pretty ugly stuff, frankly. And I kind of, when we did the layoffs, it's like, when I was trying to figure out how do we do this? It's like, okay, well, we can't cut too thin because people are going to leave. Mm-hmm. People are going to leave of their own accord because like, this is a pretty jarring experience. No one left.
Wow.
No one left. And people stick around. Like I had a woman on my team the other day share that she had a job offer for triple, 3.5 times what she makes at Recyclops. 3.5 times what she makes at Recyclops. Didn't take it. And it's like, oh. And I think that is like, like saying, oh, what does it do? Does it benefit your business? Like, yep, benefits your business. People want to be there. And, I don't have to pay someone triple that value in order to like try and get them to come.
Right.
Because they need to get paid a lot because their job sucks and it's a hard environment. And like, no, I can pay people a fair market salary and, have people, be fair with people, but also just retain people.
Can we digest that a little bit?
Yeah.
There's the intrinsic things. Obviously, she's not leaving for money. So intrinsic things are keeping her at Recyclops. And it usually comes down to mastery, autonomy, and purpose.
Yeah.
Looking through that framework in your approach to your employees, which one of those 3, or are you hitting all 3? And in what tactical ways? Mastery, autonomy, and purpose.
Yeah. So definitely autonomy is a big piece for us. And purpose, like our whole, purpose is that, but I think so much, I don't know, on mastery, it's interesting to think about and kind of where that fits. And I think that I don't, if I'm understanding mastery right, it's in a framework that I haven't necessarily used before, but if I'm understanding mastery right, I don't think that it's necessarily like, oh, they're staying because this is the best place for them. Necessarily, I think they're from like a mastery standpoint, from like oh man, I'm doing this job and I'm specialized at this job and this is the place that has this job and it's where I'm at. Not seeing as much of that, but really seeing people who, we have a no jerks policy, we are, certainly, no one's perfect. And I feel like there's times I'm like, someone did something that I'm like, but we hold to that no jerks policy and we hire people who are kind and passionate. And I laugh because, I'm a big Harry Potter fan. And I feel like we hire a bunch of Hufflepuffs.
Can you just like give us a 30-second elevator pitch? I've been trying to convince Carlos to love Harry Potter for years now.
No, I actually like Harry Potter. It's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I'm like,
that's even.
Lord, you gotta love Lord of the Rings, my man.
That's where it all started.
You gotta
like the New Testament, like she listened to the Old Testament.
That's right, and you gotta go watch Rings of Power, season 2, fire.
All right.
But no, I do think that, it's the people around you and it's how people are treated that just makes this the biggest difference. And also like little things like that are not little, like fully remote and, you know, flexibility and you know, that understanding. And we have, and even things like we have a 4-day work week. We work 4 10s. It's like people freaking love that.
Yeah.
And it's like so easy to do for us. It was like 4 10s. It's like, I'm not asking people to work 16-hour days anyways.
Do you work 4 10s?
I try. Yeah, right. But like, even if you look at,
asked your wife what you work.
if you look at my calendar, you can see tomorrow, Friday, I've got, I can make this
12 meetings on one Friday.
No. hey, stop. But it's like, this is some, I have like one meeting and then I have a second meeting that's more personal. It's a former employee, someone who got laid off, and we're meeting. But it's like, that's it. So I have like a couple meetings in the morning. So I did pretty dang good on it. I'm not perfect, and I'm certainly doing email and stuff, but I love what I do. And so it's like,
Let's play.
That's right.
Tell me about this. I feel like sometimes it's easy to allow relationships or kindness to rob productivity and profits. And I think
Totally.
the other side is equally as true. It's easy to rob profit.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that balance and how do you find that equilibrium?
You know, one of the things that reminds me of it. So there's a book, Radical Candor. I don't know if anyone here's read it or if it's on a bookshelf here.
Kim Scott, shout out.
Yeah, it's a great. It's a great one. But in Radical Candor, one of the things that I'm pretty sure it was from that book, talking about that firing someone who isn't good at their job is merciful. It's kind. So thinking about that, like someone who's bad at their job isn't going to grow in the organization. They're not going to be respected in the organization. People aren't going to appreciate them. They're not, like, if they're bad at their job, if you're keeping them around, you're keeping them around begrudgingly. And like, it's not fun to be on the other side of that. And if they're wanting to progress in their career, even if they're happy staying right where they are, they're not appreciated. Like who wants to not be appreciated? Like no one. And so when someone isn't good at their job and you hold on to them, you're holding them back. You're stopping them from growing because they're not growing with you. You need to let them go. And so I think about that idea of like, hey, can it damage business? It's like, you have to have the right mindset because sometimes you can feel like, oh, you're ruthless, firing someone. This, and it's like, and I think you can talk to people, with radical candor about these things, and they appreciate them. I know for a fact they appreciate them because I've seen it, and then you can be relentless in your pursuit of excellence while also being compassionate and being kind. Are there times where, I think where I've erred on the wrong side? Definitely. And more on the side of,
Ruthless or compassion?
Compassion, giving people too many chances, doing things and letting someone dig their own grave instead of putting them out of their misery at some level. And it's like,
that's so easy to do.
So, oh my gosh, so easy.
Have this conversation, tell them it's the last time, put them in this situation, pretty sure that they're going to fall on their face, but at least they're going to be the ones that do it instead of me letting them go.
No,
3 months or 6 months prior.
Oh, totally. And you see it. And one of the things I've struggled with too, organizationally, is I'm not everyone's boss. Like I'm like at some level, but like I'm not their they don't directly report to me. And there's people who I look and think, sometimes it's like, man, is that the best person for this in this role right now? And I can say that to their manager, but I'm not going to the same point, like I'm not going to force their manager to go fire them. Like I'm not. And that may mean that it extends that even a little bit further. Like maybe I was a little bit slow and then their manager is like, a little bit slow, and then it just
The manager doesn't have to write their checks every 2 weeks.
yeah, that's exactly
It's
right.
less painful for them.
No, it is less painful for them, and they're more personally connected, like to this, and so it's harder. It's less painful for them to have someone be not productive, and at some level, although they feel it in their team, and more painful from like that personal relationship. So it's hard, but I definitely I feel like we found a really good balance, and there's times where and I've learned so much and gotten so much better at it, but especially early on where, that was a lot of the feedback that I got from people in the company was like, hey, accountability, like holding people accountable. And you can hold people accountable and be kind. Like those are not mutually exclusive in any freaking way, like at all. But like if you're lazy, then it feels like they are at some level. Like you lull yourself into that, and then you're like, no, wait, I'm just not being disciplined, and I need to step up, and so.
And I think that's the root of radical candor, right? It's that caring deeply and challenge directly. Those two things can coexist, right?
That's exactly right.
I as you're talking about that, it reminded me of an experience I've had recently where I joined a meeting with a certain department in the company, and we were talking about growth plans and development plans, things that everyone needed to work on. And then I said, well, before you guys start working on that, I think you should meet with your manager and hear what he thinks you all should be working on. And then she unmuted herself and said, they already know. And that was a slap on my face. Like I thought that everyone had to go and talk to her and to ask what they needed to work on, where she's giving that feedback freely on a weekly basis. But a question that I want to ask, and maybe I'm getting too granular here. I just found myself in that situation recently, and I'd love both of your point of view on this.
If it's too granular, we'll just edit it out. So we're good.
It would be. This is a completely selfish. Is there ever a time where it's not worth it to be candid to someone, or you can be candid to someone when you're letting them go? And I can expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. I'm thinking. I think you can pull punches. Like I had a guy who worked for me who was a con artist. He's in jail.
Wow.
A literal con artist.
Oh yeah. Dude.
He was taking your recycling, selling it as diamonds.
But he was one of the funniest people I've ever met. An absolute delight to work with. Delight to work with, which isn't shocking, right?
His cellmate loves him.
Dude, his cellmate I'm sure loves him. Literally, like probably the funniest person I've ever met. And they would just have these one-liners, and also like incredibly creative and resourceful, which comes in handy when you're conning people. And luckily,
Or starting a company.
Yeah. Or starting a company, right? Unfortunately, he used his talents for evil. But, laying this, letting this person go was different, because it's like, I'm not like, we don't need to get into your web of lies.
Yeah.
Like
that's exactly what it is.
Like I don't need to go in and talk about like, oh, here's all the things that you lied about. Like, doesn't matter. You need to we're done. It's not the right fit. I know. But yeah, so I feel like there are times where it's like, you don't need to get into everything because of circumstances, but I do feel like part of being kind to someone is helping them understand helping them understand challenges, and helping them. So like the reality is when you're firing someone, you're not going and saying, oh, I'm firing you for I'm not firing you because of XYZ. XYZ. We've talked about XYZ. You've worked on XYZ. We've worked on XYZ, and you've continued to struggle. and therefore. So like, no one should be surprised.
Right.
Like if anyone is surprised that they're losing their job, I mean, yeah, there's layoffs and that can come as a surprise because it's more of a company thing than an individual thing. But no one should be surprised that that they're getting fired, because you should, like, if you had issues, those issues should have been addressed. And yeah,
I love it. And I think what to me, what I understand from that as well is it's the absolute exception. And it's really easy to make that the rule, but it's the absolute exception to run into those situations where you're not candid.
Yeah. And I feel like so much of that candid, like, piece comes from beforehand. Cause like sometimes you'll have employees, and this is a real thing, where someone's like, tell me why. They really want you to dig into why. And it's like, we're not going to go there.
Yeah.
Like that, the why, that's a good, probably a good way to get in a lawsuit is, getting too why centric, frankly. The why needs to have been addressed long before you're having that meeting. And so there aren't any questions that you need to go into, and it solves some of those challenges. And you don't need to try and explain away and feel guilty. Like, no, you're helping them out. They're not succeeding at Recyclops, at whatever, and they need to go somewhere else. And luckily, I mean, I haven't fired anyone in a long time. It's great.
It's awesome.
You hire well.
So,
Carlos, I was thinking about your question. This is a hard one to answer, because you do have those relationships where you have business partners that have been friends since they were in the 5th grade, or you hire a sibling or a friend, like, right? And I think the thought process between that is this relationship more important, or is the success of the business more important, or is this person's false sense of security in this role more important? And I think that's a really, really difficult place to be in. And for me, the clarity only came once I decided, what is my hierarchy? Is this relationship or the similitude of this relationship more important than the outcomes and how that's going to affect our customers and our people and my relationship with my wife and all of those things? The other part is my wife and I have this rule that if something's bugging us, we have to say it. We either choose to not allow it to bug us, or we choose to say it. And that's been really healthy. So if I'm carrying something around that is a problem in our relationship, or a relationship with a friend, or when I'm talking to my mom or something like that, and they say something that doesn't work for how I want to live, then I just get to choose. Do I want to have this be part of the conversation that I have with them, or do I want to let it go? And I think the same rule can apply in a business. Is this impactful enough that it's going to continue to bother me? If it is, then that's my signal that I have to talk to them about it.
No, amen. Well, I'm thinking about like dating. I won't say marriage because the goal obviously in any marriage is not to be divorced, but dating, breakups happen, right? And you think the breakups that hurt the most are the breakups that come out of nowhere, the breakups that are a surprise. So whether it's, your best friend from 5th grade on, or whatever, it's like, what's going to hurt that relationship the most is if, the split comes out of nowhere. And so it's like, your job is, part of this is to have open conversations about challenges and to bring up the issues as they happen and not ignore them and not let them fester and not be like, oh, well, they're this, so I'm not going to. It's like, no, you got to talk about them. And easier said than done. Like, I'm certainly not perfect at that crap.
I love it.
Carlos, I feel like you are the master at this. I feel like this is one of the reasons you can pace so quickly, is because you have such candid conversations on such a regular basis and care so deeply about your people. What's your master class? What's your playbook?
I don't know if I have a playbook or I just don't have filters. But I just I've been in situations where I'd spend my energy reading between lines, and that's energy consuming, and that any energy spent there is taken away from you building and creating. I do not want the people that work with me ever to spend a bit of energy on figuring out what I think of them. I want to spend every single bit of their energy building and creating. So I have a personal rule to always, everything I think they should know exactly where they stand with me, and so they can spend the entire energy. And if you do that well enough, at one point people start trusting you and stop spending energy there. To me, that's the root of, that's where I come from.
We always text out before the interview what's something you're passionate about or you would like to discuss. And you said two things, resilience and that it never gets easier to start a company. I'm so curious why those two topics.
Yeah, well, the real answer?
Yes, please.
The real answer is I
That's all we
texted the prompt to my wife,
And
and I asked her, like, what do you think? What do you think are things that I am passionate about? And she said, those are a couple.
that's
of things
actually
she
cool.
said.
I wonder what my wife would say. I'm gonna text her that.
I don't think she said resilience, but she said something that reminded me of that, and she definitely said the never gets easier to start. But thinking about those topics, just starting with the never, and like hitting the mic away, thinking about those topics, particularly it never gets easier to start. Starting a business is hard. And I had this epiphany before I started Recyclops that the only difference between me and someone who had started a business was that they started it. Like, that was it. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't like, if you look around you, there are people who are smarter than you who have started businesses. There are people who are dumber than you who have started businesses. There are people who are smarter than you who have crushed it. There are people dumber than you who have crushed it, and opposite. And so it's like, it's not an intelligence thing. Like, certainly it's not going to hurt.
There's a minimum threshold that's
Yeah.
you just have to be smart enough.
Yes, that's exactly right. The minimum threshold. And so you look at that, and you certainly have to grow and learn as you go. But I just had this realization that, like, man, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? Like, why not start something? And the people around me who have started businesses, like, they just did it. One day they decided, I'm going to do it. And instead of writing it down and then not actually working on it, they actually did it. And you have all these reasons to not do it. All these reasons to not do it. And those reasons just get bigger. The more, the more kids you have, the bigger your house is, the nicer your car, or even like, oh man, I lost my job. I don't have this. It's like, oh man, starting a business right then when you've lost everything and you just need to make something to support whatever. It's like, that's hard. And tomorrow is always harder. Tomorrow's always going to be harder than today was. And you're always going to think, it'll be easier tomorrow. No, it won't be. It won't be easier tomorrow. You can slow roll something. You can say, hey, I need to keep my job for a minute. I need to do this. I don't think anything's wrong with that. Start. If you want to start something, start it. Do it. Get out of your own way.
What is what's the relationship between resilience and a startup?
Oh my gosh. When I think about starting a business, like the most important thing, bar none, like the most important thing, resilience. Like for me at least, maybe other people that have it easy, but oh my gosh, it has just been so freaking hard. It has been so hard. And there have been so many times where it would have been easy to give up. Where giving up would have been easy. And I think this is why you see, suicide rates among entrepreneurs being high, because it's really hard. And, sometimes giving up is, kind of the easy answer. And you see, but I think it's resilience is everything in starting a business, because you're going to get it wrong. You're going to get it wrong, and things are going to happen that you don't expect. And there's going to be people challenges, and you're going to have some con artists to infiltrate your organization, and cons your coworkers, and steals from your business. And that's not you're going to have your biggest client go bankrupt. Which had happened to us a few months ago, and it's like that's not in the playbook. Like, and the only way forward is through it, and you have to be resilient. I had a moment about 2 years ago, probably, where our board said to me, more or less, I think it's time to throw in the towel.
Oof.
And I pretty much said to them, screw you. I'm going to make this work. And I figured it out. And, I was talking to a friend about this the other day. It's like, man, that's just lucky? It's like, certainly so much luck involved there. But I also think you make your own luck. The luck happened because I made it happen. I forced that luck. I tried so many freaking things to ensure our survival that one of them had to work. And I look at that idea of just like, don't give up. And also so I started a business out of BYU, and I looked around at a couple years later, I was talking to Wesley Eames, who founded after.com. Really cool business. If you guys are unfamiliar with it, but it's basically direct to consumer cremation. And I'm sure I'm oversimplifying.
You ship your body in, and they
no, but it's like on like e-commerce cremation. Like it's really like digital experience too. So like someone dies, and instead of it being like you go to a more, it's really a very interesting like old market that's been done a certain way and not the efficient way, right? It's done the way that people can line their pockets getting up to it, and basically cut out a bunch of the middlemen and just made it efficient. But so Wes and I were talking, we both started businesses out of BYU. And he started a business called Ancestor Cloud, later became Trace. And it was probably 6 years in or something, 7 years in. And we were talking about like, oh man, look at all these other businesses that started with us. It was right, Recyclops, Simple Citizen, Trace. And it's like, it's just us three that are left. And there were dozens of these student-run businesses, and all of them went away because, they got a nice job offer at Microsoft because, whatever. And it was like at one point or another, they decided, it's not worth it. And that's okay. Like they wanted to go a different path. Like I have no issues with that. But my business didn't succeed over their business because my business idea was better, or because my execution was better. My business succeeded when theirs went away because I made it succeed, because I didn't give up, because I kept pushing. And yeah.
I think I've heard you, Cord, say that multiple times, that luck tends to come to those that work really, really hard. Ryan, I'm very curious to hear if you could, we call it, fetal position in the shower moments.
Oh, yeah.
If you could get into a little bit of detail, maybe one where you were like, there's no way out of this. And what happened? What were the details?
Oh, man. I've definitely had those. I've certainly cried many times as an entrepreneur and had those fetal position in the shower moments, which then people are like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, I don't know. I love it. Being an entrepreneur is the best somehow. It was the same time when our board basically said, hey, throw in the towel.
This was 3 years ago.
2 years ago, 18 months ago. I don't know what it was. 2 years ago, something like that. And yeah, not the first time it happened. But we expected to be able to raise a Series A of 10 to 12 million bucks. We had done very well reaching the goals that we said we would achieve with a seed round of financing, and thought like, okay, cool, we did what we were told to do. But then in 2021 or 2022, okay, this was 2 years ago, 2020, late 2022, early 2023, markets for raising capital, interest rates went way up, and investors started being a lot more cautious with their prospects. Suddenly everyone was saying, oh man, instead of like grow at all costs, it was like get profitable. It's like, oh man, we would have looked at things a little bit differently over the last 3 years if that's what we were being evaluated on. And so we thought that we were going to be able to raise money, couldn't raise that money, and had to lay off. There was like 90 people at Recyclops. Now there's like 12. So it was, and I met with especially that first round of layups we did. I met with every person individually, and then had an all hands and said, if you're still here, you didn't get laid off. Everyone else got laid off. And it was like, I cried so much. It was just awful. And then you go through all of that, and you do all these things, and you're doing it just to try and survive. And then you get to the end and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm still going to die. The business is still not going to make it, because it's like, too little, too late. And it takes, you're trying to figure out how on earth do we do things with way less people. And, you shut off the marketing engine completely, and it's like, oh, cool. Now we have to somehow get profitable by cutting, but also growing. But how are we going to grow? And so anyways, doing all this, been through, so much crap, and the company has been, the people in the company just had been through a lot. And then it looked like, oh my gosh, we're still not going to make it. And we got to this point where I reached out to a bunch of strategics saying, hey, maybe we can raise some money from a strategic. We had someone who had told us, I won't say who, although maybe I should, who told us, hey, Series A's aren't our jam. That's not really what we do, but we like you. We believe in you. Push comes to shove. We've led a Series A before. We got your back. And it's like, okay. So I went and fought tooth and nail to try and raise a Series A without them. Didn't succeed, and came back and said, hey, want to take you up on that. And they just gaslit me. And we're like, essentially was like, oh, we know that. No, and that didn't happen.
Oh, wow.
And then said, we bet on winners. It's like, I sure dislike you. Tried to get acquired, found an acquirer. 2 weeks before the acquisition, it all fell through.
Oh.
And so at this point, it's like, oh my gosh. And it's like, I have a wife and 3 kids. My daughter was just born. So, my third daughter. And it's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And my wife's like, you might need to get a job. And my investors are like, hey, time to throw in the towel. But it's like, I just think about what we're doing at Recyclops, and the thousands and thousands of customers who care so deeply about what we're doing and the impact we're having. And I look at, what the vision that I have for the business, and it's like, none of that changed. And so kind of to do the speedy version of how we got out of that crap. So I owed Silicon Valley Bank a lot of money. Like, we'd taken out a $1.5 million loan from them, and paid off more than half of it. But still had a lot. And, like $700,000 left on it or something. And then I also had we'd stopped paying all our credit cards. So we just had like $200,000 of credit card stuff piled up, or maybe more. I don't remember. And the smile on your face right now. So much. We basically looked at it and said, like, we're either going to go bankrupt or we're going to figure it out. And if we're gonna go bankrupt, like, let's go bankrupt. Like, let's figure this out. And maybe that's like a not healthy way to think of it, but we didn't go bankrupt. We figured it out. Like, I was, so anyways, we're doing all this. We have this. So I try and come up with strategies for how I can make it work. And it's like, okay, maybe I can find a strategic investor. Oh, maybe I can find it. Oh, maybe they'll buy me. Oh, maybe this, maybe that. And one of those options was we do residential. About half of our business is residential collection of recycling. The other half is working with brands on specialty collection programs for anything from, plastic manufacturing waste to dirty diaper composting programs for brands. Like, we do all sorts of crazy stuff, solar panel recycling, but about half of it's residential collection. And in Park City and Heber, Utah, we at the time were doing about $1 million between residential and some commercial collection. And we thought, hey, this is a market that's big enough that we could maybe sell it to one of the big like waste companies. We're not doing trash, we're just doing recycling, but it would fit well enough into their model that I think it could be interesting and it's good enough money. And so we go to them and there's some interest. And then one of them, local company, Ace Disposal, their general manager, he said to me, what's going on? Like, we'd known each other for a few years. I'd actually divested a chunk of Recyclops to them actually once before. And he goes, what's going on? And during the first crisis, that was actually the first time that I was in the fetal position in the shower. And he's just asked, about this and like, why are you so urgently trying to sell this portion of the business? Like, help me understand. And I knew that if I told him what was going on, that I lost all leverage. But I said, I also realized that if I wasn't transparent, I wasn't going to get a deal done. So I said, hey, we're going to go bankrupt. Like, we need about $550,000 because we've built up all of these like, I have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debts that I'm not servicing, that I'm just defaulting on right now. And like, I need that money. Like, we finally got the business to a point where like, we're essentially profitable, but I'm being buried by these things so it's like by these things and I can't get out of it. And this is the only way. Like, this hurts my profitability, but I think if I get that money, it gives me enough time to figure it out. And he said, what if I loaned you $500,000? What if we collateralize this? What if instead of you selling me this market, what if I use it as collateral? And, he's like, we do trash and we do recycling too, but like, we do trash and recycling. To just do recycling, it's not really our bread and butter. So like, I'm not incredibly eager to buy this business. It's a decent opportunity. So I'm not interested. Like, that's what we're talking. But I'd rather you keep doing what you're doing and figure it out. And I'll loan you the money. And if you die, I get the market. Don't die. And so that happened. And, game changing. You think, oh my gosh, I'm going to survive. And then I have to go to Silicon Valley Bank and say, hey, Silicon Valley Bank, can we carve out this one piece of collateral? I owe you more money, but can you carve out this little piece of collateral? And they're like, no. It's like, well, what if I paid you to do it? They're like, maybe. So I go and they do it all. And I say, I'm going to pay you this and we're going to pay off our credit card and we're going to do it. And they come back and say, hey, carving out this piece of collateral, you still owe us a bunch of money. There's no really clear path. Like, this doesn't give me a clear path that you're going to start making payments on time. Like, we're like, you're kind of asking for a payment vacation and for us to eliminate some collateral. Like, this doesn't, like, sorry, buddy. And so I was like, oh
And
my
then the
gosh.
next day, Silicon Valley Bank goes out of business.
No, this is literally when they were going out of business at this time. Like, this is all happening simultaneously. Wow. And it impacts the story. Unfortunately, it impacts the story. But so I'm like, oh, freak. And so finally it reaches the point where it's like, okay, I think we need to go bankrupt. And we decided we were going to do a restructuring. So chapter 11, I think, is restructuring. Chapter 4, I don't remember. But we're going to do restructured bankruptcy. And decided that's what we're going to do. We're going to have to restructure. We're going to, it's going to eliminate all of these investors, some of which I was like, screw you. But at the same time, like, these people believed in me and I don't actually want to screw them. Mm-hmm. Like, I really don't. Like, even if they stopped believing in me, like, they believed in me at one point, and I want to prove them wrong by crushing it. Not say, screw you, you stop believing in me, I'm going to wipe you out. So was really struggling with this idea of bankruptcy when I saw that, like, I'm just going to basically start the business. I'm just going to basically keep the business going, like eliminate these problems through this path, which is why those bankruptcies exist, right? That's what, because there's a business that can work, but just got, a little over their skis. So decided that's what we have to do, and talked to a bankruptcy attorney on Wednesday. He said, hey, I'm out on Thursday, but let's reconnect Friday. You and your wife can talk about this, think about this. It's not personal bankruptcy, it's business bankruptcy, but wanted to think about it, and he could see my struggles. Thursday, I got a call from SVB, and they said, hey, can you do $30,000 more? Well, actually, oh man, I skipped a little. Well, I went to SVB, did that first offer, and they said no, right? And then I came back to them with the second offer that was, hey, exact same thing, except for you just forgive me of the debt. So it's like a worse deal for SVB. They already said no to the better deal, but it was a more normal deal. Like, banks write off bad debt.
Sure.
Like, they do that. Mm-hmm. Banks don't carve out chunks of collateral and have debt that they sit on that maybe someone will pay someday.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, hey, this is just more normal. And frankly, the biggest problem that they had with it was not necessarily the price, but it was the normalcy. So they came back, said no to the normal. And then on that Thursday, they called me and said, hey, can you do $30,000 more? I was paying them like $200,000. It's like 30,000. That's freaking nothing, like, compared to everything that's going on. And in that, they forgave me of $500,000. That $500,000 was the intention was it was going to be converted to equity. With the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, new ownership said, no, we're not doing the equity thing. We're just writing it off. Wow. Which at the time feels like, oh, that's kind of sick. But in reality, it makes me a lot less bankable. Right. Because instead of it being an investment, it's a bank that I got to deal with. But not a lot of people run to get in a situation where they actually get their bank to forgive them of debt, which is it was a pretty unique situation, right, that enabled it, and a lot of factors that went into that. And we got one of our investors who, just incredible, did put in a little bit of extra money into that, because we needed $550 to kind of make it through the long haul, and now we were paying off SVB $200,000. And so we needed someone to kind of step up and fill that gap. And we had that happen, which is game changing. And so we made that through, and then you just go on and up. But during this whole process, I had a neighbor say to me, they saw me just pacing the neighborhood on the phone with like this, just like crying. And I was like, oh, yeah. I need to be more private. I wasn't crying most of the time. I was pacing around on the phone because I was talking to someone. But really, it was brutal. It was awful. I mean, I was super transparent with our employees, which is also really hard because you're creating a flight risk. Okay. But I told our employees what was happening. I said, hey, we're going to make the next payroll. I don't know if we'll make the one after that, but I'll keep you posted. Yeah. If you go look for a job, it won't hurt my feelings, because what are you supposed to do? But I never stopped believing in what we were doing. I had the vision of what we were doing, and I knew that if I kept fighting, that I would find a way to make it work. And I feel so blessed. Like, I feel like, I feel like there were higher powers that helped it all happen. Like, I just feel so blessed that I pulled it off, because it was a miracle. I mean, to have some waste company loan you $500,000 to do, like, the structure of it was crazy. The amount of freaking money I had to spend on dumb lawyers. You're great. Lawyers helped me. But the amount of money I had to spend on lawyers to get this thing over the finish line, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm doing all this because I don't have any money, and now I'm having to spend tens of thousands of dollars in legal because it was super complicated to do it all. And, but we did it all. and we pulled it off, and it was made it to the other side. And here we are a couple years later, and have been able to, keep going and keep growing and figure out new paths to, drive success forward without the capital that we expected to have. And have, really, I feel like we have a better business now than we ever did, which is great.
Ryan, what's your what's the one secret or the hack that entrepreneurs can just do to make this whole process easier?
What is the one secret or hack entrepreneurs can do to make this whole process easier? Find a good wife or husband, obviously. Yeah, find a good spouse. Seriously, game changing. Having someone that you can lean on and who supports you and has your back and believes in you, game changing. The thought of doing this by myself without having someone to lean on, like I literally feel like I would have been suicidal. Like legitimately, like no sarcasm, like, but having someone who's there, who loves you through it. And so I think that's a big hack, a huge hack. And then one other much smaller hack I would say is run the worst case scenarios through. Like, think about the worst case scenarios. It's not actually that bad. Like, oh, it's all going to crash and burn. It's like, yeah, I'll be fine. What actually matters in life? Will that all be gone if it crashes and burns? Like, you're a smart person. You started a business. Like, you don't think you can go get a freaking job? You don't think you can start something new? Like, you can. Like, you'll be fine. Like, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Yeah, but like, you'll be fine. And like realizing that and like coming to that was for me freeing. It was just like this breath of fresh air, just like, oh, I will be fine. I will be fine. Like, I'm going to keep fighting. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop fighting, but like, if everything crashes and burns, I will still be okay. And that is a wonderful feeling because sometimes it feels like you won't be.
I love that.
I only have one more question.
Go for it.
This is the question we finish every podcast with.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby.
So you got to sit across from a former version of yourself. What age would that Ryan be and what would you tell him?
He would be 20. Let's think, how old would he be? He would probably be 30. Yeah, 30.
So 4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years ago. I think so. I think that's a good time. And I would tell him to hire a financial planning, an FP&A, someone who does financial planning, an analyst in FP&A, someone to go do FP&A. Oh my gosh. Best. Maybe it seems like a simple thing to tell yourself, but accountants are liars. Accountants are all liars. All the accountants say, I can do financial planning and analysis. No, they can't. They can. They're totally capable of it. They're smart. They have the skills. So they think they're going to do it. They don't do it. Accountants will say, I'll help you do this. I'll help you. No, they won't. Lying. You can hire someone who's an accountant and who has the skills necessary to do this job. They will not do that job. They will get lost in accounting. And I look like when we finally hired someone good to do FP&A for us.
For your personal or your business?
Business. His name's Bill, employee of the month every month. Bill changed my life. Oh my gosh. Bill came in and said, this sounds so stupid. It makes me feel so stupid. Like, you're spending way too much money. You're going to run out of money so quickly. You need to do layoffs now. Like yesterday. Like you've tried to hire away your problems and you're assuming that you're going to get capital, but like, there's no guarantee you're going to get like, you're screwed if you keep on the path you're on. And like, we'd looked like, I had an accountant who was looking at like, I was looking at stuff. So was the accountant. But we were looking at it through rose-colored glasses. We were looking at it past more than future. We were looking at it wrong. We weren't looking at it right. He came in and saved our business. 100% saved the business. We would not be here if it weren't for Bill. Without a doubt in my mind. And if I had brought him on in 2021 or 2020, oh man, I would have a much bigger and better business than I have today. We're doing fine. Things are good. I'm very happy with where we are. But I wouldn't have been crying in the shower in the fetal position nearly as much. So that it is, and I had been told, oh my gosh, I'd been told, so Davis Smith, who's founder of Cotopaxi, he's my brother. And he told me, hire an FP&A. You need to hire an FP&A. And I was like, oh, my accountant's got it. He's like, no, they don't. Hire an FP&A. No, they really do. They're really good. Wrong. Hire an FP&A. Do it.
Okay, I have one more question.
Okay.
I'm friends with his co-founder, but he won't tell me if it's pronounced Stefan or Stefan. So can you just close that door for me once and for all? The Cotopaxi co-founder.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I know.
You
for
know.
those of you listening at home. So it's Stefan.
Stefan.
He'll say it's whatever you want it to be.
That's what he says.
He says it's whatever you want it to be. And that is because he's a very nice German man. But if you were in Germany, his name would be Stefan.
Amazing. Thank you for that.
So.
Right. This has been awesome.
What a treat. Thank you.
So, yeah, that was good. Good times.
Thanks, Ryan. That's a wrap.